Hey, everyone! Welcome to our fourth episode of Rhinestoned.
Rhinestoned.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Danae.
So excited for this fourth episode.
I'm stoked. Here
Yeah,
we are, sis.
week four. Okay, so we're in a month.
I know. I can't believe it. I mean, I
Oh,
can, but I'm
oh,
also just proud of
us.
us.
Our listeners probably don't appreciate that we talk about this. Like we're just so surprised that we're keeping it going. But to be fair, I think we've explained enough about our lives for you all to understand that it's not like we have nothing going on. So this is a feat. It is a feat for us.
It is a feat. And little up top, what do they call that? Housekeeping for our listeners. Audio on the last three has been decent, I would say. Audio today should be a little bit better. I've done some tweaking on my end. Nicole's audio has been coming in pretty strong. Leave comments, thoughts. We're working on it and we're hoping to improve for you every week.
Always improving. Always improving.
Exactly. As in life.
Yes, definitely. We
Mm.
must evolve.
Mm.
Well, look, I know we normally start with, a weekend update, but I have to be honest, there is so much to talk about with
Let's just get
BravoCon.
into it.
I
Let's just
feel
do
like
it.
we just need to dive right in. Everyone's already been
Mm.
talking about it. We're like a couple days away now from it having ended. And boy, did this deliver. I think next year you and I need to go to BravoCon. Like maybe we need to
Well,
finally pull the trigger and go in person.
and I was listening to Danny Pellegrino last night, as I do, because I wanted to hear what
We
his
love Danny
breakdown
Pellegrino.
was. And he moderated two panels there, the Traders and the Valley. This is all to say they're going to do it in 2027. So they're skipping 2026, and then
I did not know
BravoCon will be
that.
2027. And I was just thinking that is perfect for us because it gives us time to plan, coordinate, really make this thing happen, and then we are going in 2027. It's a non-negotiable. I'm sorry.
I love that for us. No, we
I'm
absolutely must.
so excited.
No, that has to happen.
It
Like
has to
I'd be
happen.
very sad actually if we don't go, especially knowing there's a
Same.
full year.
Same.
Well, look, I think we would be remiss to, well, this is the other thing I'll say that's interesting, right?
Mm.
The power of the Bravo universe is such that I think you could ask Bravo fans, like, what was the biggest thing for you that came out and get wildly different answers.
Absolutely.
But selfishly, we're going to start with what I think is the biggest thing coming out of it, which is
Oh,
Melissa and Joe back together. I mean, I'm sorry. It's also because I'm a New Jersey uh, Real Housewives of New Jersey fan, but you just love to see it. I know people are doubting it. There's so much
you're
judgment
such
from
a
the
sucker.
fans. All the fans are like, we're sick of it. We don't care. We're over it. But
Yep.
to me, it just pulls on my heartstrings, right? Like
Yeah,
siblings, you only, especially with them, right? Like we're in a similar position. You only have one. To be at that age and be estranged from your sibling for so long, it makes me so
100%.
sad. I'm so happy for them.
I did see a TikTok that just said, this is how you know the money is run out. And I think there's probably some truth to that, but I think there's also just like, oh my God, like how long can you do the same thing? I mean, how long can you hold the same grudge, really?
So, okay, but that being said, do you think that they are just doing it so that Andy will reconcile everything with the show? Because I think that was the main rumor that they were just coming back together because Andy obviously hasn't made any decisions, which I think was one of the things that came out of BravoCon that he hasn't really decided anything. It sounds like New Jersey is still on hold, unfortunately, sadly.
Yeah,
So I think the rumor was that, Melissa, Joe, Teresa got together and obviously want this to be over. I'm sure it's threatening their income streams.
absolutely.
And they were like, maybe if, we smooth things over, Andy will be compelled to start filming again. Do you think that
Yeah.
that's really what's going on, or do you think it's real?
So my assessment, and listen, I know nothing about nothing. So I am literally almost making this up, but here's my assessment of it. I think it has more to do with the kids.
Yeah,
I think it has more to do with like Gia being on this new show on Bravo. I'm sure Melissa's daughter is looking at that same thing. I'm sure Melissa's daughter and Gia have a pre-existing relationship that
of
maybe has been
course.
strained. These boys that Melissa has have now started to come of age. They're no longer, oh, earmuffs, don't listen to, I'm sure they have thoughts and opinions. So
Yeah,
I'm hoping it might even just be more of a, if we continue with this behavior, our kids are never going to know each other. They're never going to
totally.
have a relationship that they should have, that they had previously as cousins. And I'm hoping it's just like like literally an organic, let's just come back together for the kids and for the
Yeah,
family.
I mean, if that is the truth, then I think that is lovely. And I think that's such a great reason, you know. Look, I think it's probably a lot of things wrapped in one, right?
Oh
I
yeah.
think that, like, you're right. I think there's the kids aspect. I think, the other side of it is, let's be real, some years have passed. Mortality is a bitch, everyone.
Mm,
The older we get, I think the closer you are to understanding what these sort of feuds are taking away, like not just from you personally, but also like to your point from your family, and really just like how little time you have left. I think that was some of
totally.
the sentiment of some of their comments, like how much longer are we going to let this go on, this whole living apart? So
Yeah.
I think that could be part of it too. Like, again, we're all getting older. And maybe, for both Joe and Teresa, they're realizing, okay, well, like, do we want to be still holding this grudge when we're like in our 60s,
Or
you know?
like even that, to go back to the kids thing of it all, the first wedding, which let's say it's Gia. Oh my God, like how awkward is that going to be? You have two family
Totally.
members, they won't, there's significant sides, everything is more stressful. It would just be easier for everyone, right?
I totally agree.
But
I love
I do think, yes, is there some truth to the fact that the money has run out? Yeah. I also
for
just,
sure.
from what I've seen, I don't think Andy is going to let them back on New Jersey. I think what it might look like is maybe Teresa does get some sort of spinoff, because I do think we have to come back to, okay, Vicky Gunvalson got her orange back, right?
Yeah.
That is a testament to the fact that I think her and Teresa, you could say,
Yeah.
and maybe Sheena Shea with
Yeah.
Vanderpump Rules really made this network what it is. I mean, those three really, Teresa with the flipping of the table, Vicky with the first ever Housewives, right? And then Sheena with transferring, that epic moment where we were all watching Beverly Hills Housewives and suddenly we weren't. Suddenly we were in Sir, I mean, that is all to Sheena's credit for putting that affair on TV.
Yeah, no, that is true.
So I think
Yeah,
that's why they get rewarded.
yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, I look, I definitely think there's truth to what you're saying, like not to jump ahead, but obviously I think a lot of people were hoping for some news on New York
Yeah.
Housewives, and all we really got that it was that a cast was locked. And I think that sort of the implication of that was that it seems like it's probably going to be some of the newer women and then additional new women that we don't yet know. But I saw an interesting quote. I think it was like from Luann, or maybe it was Sonia or something. I think it was Sonia actually, who had sort of, retweeted or was reposting some content of her and Luann from BravoCon, and her sort of, parting thought. She said, "We heard from so many of you that you just really miss seeing our lives, being a part of our lives,
Right.
right?" And I think, kind of to your point, that is, I think, what is going on right now within the Bravo universe with, there still being so much energy around Teresa. I heard that her booth was constantly busy the whole time,
Oh, I'm sure.
with Vicky getting, her orange and coming back onto Orange County. I think you're definitely correct that there's this moment happening right now where people are really sort of missing the
Yeah.
women that were there from the very beginning. And,
Yeah.
even though it's not happening for all the franchises, it does seem like Andy is sort of listening to that and taking us
Mm,
back to the beginning in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
And honestly, I think it speaks a lot to age. I don't think, and I could be wrong, we could probably figure this out by looking at their, I guess, ratings or something, but I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to make assumptions because that's more fun to do. Um, the Bravo universe to me feels like one in which the fans have now grown up in it,
Yeah.
right? We started with the Vanderpump of it all,
We've
and
been
now
watching these shows for like
20
over
years.
over a decade.
We're no longer 20. And although I think they're trying to get with, oh, not Southern Charm, but the other one, they're in Charleston. It's
Oh,
Leva's
yes. No, I actually watched that. Why am I blanking on the name?
Maddie. And I mean, I literally know the people and I can't
Leva's
tell you the name
show.
of the
Oh my God,
show.
we're both totally blanking on. But I actually do
Whoops.
watch that.
Okay. So that show, and then with Vanderpump getting rebooted, I think there is this desire to go after a younger demographic. I'm
Southern
interested to see how
Hospitality.
Southern Hospitality.
Sorry.
All of those people are truly 25 to like
Yeah.
29. They
Yeah,
are literally babies, right? Like before, they're not in their 30s yet. And then Vanderpump, it seems like a lot of them will be that age as well. So I think what they're trying to do is get that newer um and younger demographic to come in. In my opinion, though, I think to what you're saying, this is why we love Teresa because it's like, well,
yeah,
I'm 40 now, like I want to watch someone who's
totally.
55, not someone who's 25, right?
I think that's
So
where he's gonna have to maybe, like to your point, focus on just creating new shows with younger people as opposed to constantly trying to shake up the Housewives cast with younger
agreed.
people or with newer people because I think that, look, unless something like dramatically starts to shift, to your point, we've grown up with these women, right?
Yeah,
So even though they are well beyond being what we consider traditional housewives at this point, right? I think that there is this sense of like entitlement that the fans feel towards knowing like what is still happening with their lives, right? And the reality too is like everyone being so online these days and on social, like the fans can see that of course these women are continuing to live their lives, right? Like I think part of why I heard that, there won't be, or I think this was a quote from Andy when he was getting pressured about New York. He was like, half of them live in Florida now, right? But like that doesn't take away the interest that fans have in their lives. Like, okay, so what? Ramona's in Florida. Ramona's a mess still. People still want to see
right.
what she's doing when she's going out. There's still items coming out about her, about fan interactions she's had or celebrity interactions. Like, this is a woman that is still none of them have gone off and like sat in a corner, during some of
Right.
their down periods on the show. So I
Yeah.
think that he does have to sort of recognize that and reconcile that
Well,
love their
this is
OGs.
where, yeah, this is where for Summer House fans, so I know Nicole, you don't watch Summer House. My husband and I,
No, I do.
I didn't.
Oh,
Shut my mouth.
no, but actually, Danae is right in that for the longest time I resisted watching it. And then I want to say like two
Behave.
years ago, I binged the most recent season, and now I am a Summer House watcher.
I mean, it's so good. I'm sorry. It's just perfect example though. There, I don't even think the new show has a name. I think we're still waiting for, I think just something about being in the city, but Kyle and Amanda and Lindsay now are gonna have a spinoff. And I think to your point, this is exactly right. Like, even if
Yeah.
it flops, even if it's a season banger or whatever, I think it just shows that like there is innovation. I have always wanted to know what is the inside of Kyle and Amanda's apartment even look like? Are we talking they live in a high rise? Do they live in like a walk up somewhere? Like, this is fascinating for me, and it is the type of stuff I want to know, you
Yeah,
know?
no, I think that's totally fair. Well, okay, so before we move on to like maybe some of the newer people, I think we have to talk about one more OG, of course. Well,
Mm,
actually two, because we hinted at Vicky, but we didn't really get into it. But before we talk to Vicky, let's talk about the return of Karen Huger. Now, I will be very honest in saying that I am a Potomac watcher. However, it is probably one of my least favorite
okay.
franchises,
Yeah.
at least in the last couple of years. Like I
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm really missing Robin. Um
I am too.
I and even Karen being gone, I think has really changed the show.
Yeah.
But I
And
think
I was a Monique lover as well, and I
oh yes.
understand
Yeah.
why she had to leave, but I thought that she really added something special.
That being said, I think with Karen, the one thing I just wanted to say, and of course I saw some other comments like this, but it is, it is sort of funny when we think about the ways in which the Bravo universe has had to deal with criminality
Mm.
and how present in some ways it is across like multiple franchises. And I
Correct.
think like what Karen sort of shines a light on is sort of just like the lack of any sort of like equality in terms of how Andy is handling that, right? And
Oh,
of
interesting.
course, like I'm thinking of Jen Shaw, right? And I
Yeah.
know he's famously said that she will never ever be back. He'll never have her back. And of course, Jen Shaw's crimes and are awful, right? And she was manipulating people for years. But Karen could have killed someone. Like she really
Mm-hmm.
could have. And not just
Mm-hmm.
once, like multiple times, right?
Shannon as well. Shannon as well.
Yes, so I think it's so interesting that Andy brings her out for sort of this triumphant return.
Do a standing ovation.
She's so well received by the fans. The fans are so excited to see her. But I think if we just lens out, it is sort of this kind of, commentary, inevitably coming from him and coming from Bravo on, well, you can do this, but not this,
Yeah.
or we're gonna say this gets a pass and you could still be celebrated, but not you over here who's like actually, still in jail for your crimes. Like I don't know. I think it is just a really fascinating thing to think about.
I agree. And I think that I was trying to think in my head, like, was there a line, right? And the line could be, well, only if you're hurting yourself, right? But
Mm,
to your point, Shannon and Karen, though they didn't, they could have, right? They could
yes.
have hurt someone else besides themselves.
They just got lucky.
And and that is the thing with Jen, like obviously Jen, and I think that that's why Erica really needed to prove that she was not the one victimizing Tom's clients, right?
Totally.
Because she had to prove that, yeah, she didn't have anything to do with that. She herself was a victim. So yeah, I agree with you. It's like, well, I wish almost there was a hard and fast rule. Doesn't seem like there is. I also think it's like you do, and we could talk, probably dedicate a whole nother episode to just this conversation, and maybe it goes a little bit into the Jeff Lewis of it all, which we'll talk about in a bit, not to step on it. Um, but I do think that the Bravo universe introduces something.
Mm,
I'll give you a quick example. Like with Jessel.
yeah.
Okay. I don't think that Jessel probably thought that her husband was like a prize. Like I don't think that she was under any like
Well, she basically sort of admitted she wasn't really that into him on the
right,
show.
like their love story was that like we were friends and he wore me down.
Yeah. Time to
However,
get married.
the time to get married, right? However, you look at that type of situation and it's like they turned him into a pedophile the
Yeah.
first season, right?
Yeah.
They're literally they tried to make a storyline that this man is going on prostitution vacations, right? Or
Totally.
whatever they called it. So I think that that's a perfect example of like, yeah, you sign up for yourself on these shows and then you have no idea. The horse is out of the barn. You don't know how you're going to be edited. You don't know what
Yeah.
storylines. Suddenly your husband is going to Thailand to have horrible things, which isn't the case, and now your life is turned upside down, and so you hit the bottle. Like
Yeah.
I do think Bravo does cause a bit of this, but
Yeah.
again, we could dedicate a whole episode just to that idea.
Well, I think what I'll say is I think it's twofold. I think that the environment, and we talked about this when the Wendy Aslefo stuff popped up a few weeks ago,
Right.
right? In that the environment does seem to sort of breed that behavior for
Mhm.
whatever reason, right? Well, I think because a lot of them get, caught up, right, in sort of the lifestyle that they're leading, the fact that they're a housewife. They don't want to lose that. They don't want to lose their spot on the show. And that's where I think sometimes, people make poor decisions, right? But
Correct.
I also think that, we have to be, honest about the fact too that at the end of the day, they're just trying to make good reality television,
Mhm.
right? And in that way, I think Bravo just attracts some of these personalities
Yeah.
naturally because
Yeah.
you're just looking for someone, that's going to push that boundary, right?
Yeah.
Or that's going to sort of like color outside of the lines. And so I think it's two things happening at once, right? I think there's just some like the Jen Shaws that just get pulled into this or are seeking it because they want more fame, or maybe it is a way to further enable their criminality that's already there.
Oh
And
my
then there
God.
are some that just get caught up in the machine. But what's interesting as we're talking about this is I'm thinking about it, and I feel like literally almost every franchise has had something, right? So Orange
100%.
County has Shannon, Beverly Hills has Erica, even though
Erica.
she was cleared of that, right? Salt Lake has Jen Shaw.
Hmm.
Did Atlanta have anything? I feel like
Recently, yeah, with the exposure of the porn video. Who was it?
Oh yeah, that was messed up. But I
that
don't know
was
if that
this
was
last
like I
season.
don't know if that was like criminal acts, right? Potomac has Karen Huger, Jersey has Teresa, right?
New
And
York had
then
Countess Luann.
yeah, that's right. I forgot about Candace Lynn.
That was
So
major.
literally every single franchise, maybe with the exception of
Maybe
Atlanta,
Miami and
Miami. Oh, you're right. How could I forget my dear Miami
I
girls?
know, I
I feel
know.
like Miami has had something. I think that's just really crazy to think about,
No, it
right?
is.
All over the country, each, almost every single one. I don't know. You know, to your point, we could get very deep on this, but to go back to my original point about what is that line, I would love to have a personal conversation with Andy Cohen about something like that. I
I
would
wonder
just
how
be
he thinks about
curious
it.
for how his mind works, and
Hmm.
like what his own level of comfortability is
Yeah,
and how he feels even about that fact, right? That
yeah,
in sort of every single franchise there is elements of criminality. Um,
yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
fascinating. Okay, well
And it
anyways,
could also, like, it could weirdly just be, and I think about this a lot with Lisa Rinna. Andy and Lisa Rinna were in love with each other. I mean, we're
yeah,
talking like it's his baby shower. She's the one on the table. Get your asses on the table for this man. I mean, she was the maestro of that whole
totally.
thing. And now she is so on the outs. And I wonder sometimes, is it Andy really becoming just disillusioned with someone? Like he knows
Yeah,
all of these people are messed up to a fault, right? Like he knows that they're all mean to some
totally.
degree, right? But maybe in his mind, he's like, no, but deep down, I know that person is a good person. And like with Lisa or Jen Shaw, for example,
Yeah.
maybe it's just Andy feeling like, oh no, they deep down are not good people.
But that's
Whoops.
exactly what I'm saying. Like, is he making his own like moral
Right.
judgments of them, like knowing them as people, or
That's what
what
I
what do we
wonder.
think is happening, you know? It's so interesting.
That's what I would be wondering. To your point, like, is it Andy's gut feeling that leads a
Yeah,
lot of these casting
it
decisions?
probably is. I think so.
It might be.
So now you don't watch OC, right?
I do like washing dishes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like, I don't even look at it.
I mean, okay, so with Vicky coming back, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, like, I don't want to see Vicky again. Of course I do.
Mm.
Like, I've missed her. I
Hmm.
she shakes things up a little bit, right? I
Hmm.
also think that what's been happening on OC the last couple of years has just been odd, I guess, like I just thinking about like Alexa Polino coming back and now she's gone. Like I just feel like they don't know what they're doing on that show. Everything that blew up with Katie. So that was an interesting one where like I can't say I was surprised. I think it will be very interesting to see how it does affect casting for next year. It was very clear to me that like both like that Gina was kind of shifting a lot of like her behavior, I think, as a result of that news, which was kind of fascinating. So I don't know. I think I have mixed feelings about Vicky coming back.
Well, here's the thing. If Bravo came to me and was like, "Do you want to be a housewife?" You know what I'm saying? Like it would be like, "Oh my God, for sure, sign me up." But there's nothing about me. Like it would be the most boring. So when I say this, I'm not saying that I'm sure it's easy to get attention, right? Like if I'm
Yeah,
Bravo and I'm a casting director, I'm sure it's easy to get 1,000 applications through the door of
totally.
nobodies who have no storyline. But when it comes to getting like really to go back to the Jessel, my Jessel of it all, when it comes to getting like really high caliber women who also don't really want fame but want to open up their life to this, I'm sure that's really hard. I'm sure it's really hard. So you have to kind of find people like Bose or Rachel Zoe who have already done this or who
Yeah,
really want it. In Bo's
yeah,
case, for example, like, she had always wanted to be famous and she finally found an avenue to make that happen. Corporate America wasn't going to do it for her, right? So it's
totally.
like, yeah, that's my only thing, that sometimes I do feel like this just must be the hardest thing. It's probably a lot easier, for example, to cast like a bachelor,
Yeah.
where there probably are a bunch of 20-year-olds out there who just want to be on
Oh, for
TV and meet the
sure.
love of their life, like why not?
Well, especially at this point, everything about this show is so formulaic that like they
You have to
probably have set
Yes.
things anyways that they're, looking for. And I
Right.
think in a lot of ways Vicky is the model housewife,
And
right?
she's going to be great on television. They don't have to like think about, okay, for 2 years, we're going to have to coach this woman
The
into
producers
being a
on OC
housewife.
are probably relieved. They're probably both like terrified and relieved at the same time. There's probably this aspect of like, oh God, again. But then they're also like, well, at least we know what's coming, you know?
The editing team is like, we know how to make her look crazy
Yeah.
instantly. This is going to be so easy.
They're like, oh, my job's about to get exciting again. One thing I saw that was hilarious, someone was like, I can't wait to see the conversation between Vicky and Jen when Vicky is asking Jen why she doesn't work, which I think is going to be so rich. Those two actually interacting. I think we have seen them interact before, but I
Have
think,
we?
yeah, I
I'm not
think so.
sure. I'm
Because Vicky's
excited.
still like come around. So I'm pretty sure that
Okay.
wasn't like they did like a traders dinner, I think,
Okay.
like themed dinner last season, and I
That's
feel
right.
like that Jen would have been there, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I've seen them interact. Um, but what we really need to talk about is the
Mm.
franchise that is yet to be or yet to air,
Oh.
which I thought of you right away because do you remember like growing
Yes.
up you were sort of obsessed with Rhode Island?
I
Do
don't
you
know
remember why? Because I just remembered like that you were obsessed for some reason. Like listeners, this is so random, but like growing up, Danae would talk about Rhode Island all the time. And like I
all the
never
time.
got it. I don't know why you were so intrigued. Can you explain?
It started
Do you
when I was
remember?
really young, and I just always used to say that I was going to move to Rhode Island and
Yeah.
go to Rhode Island. It honestly probably, if I'm going to be honest, it started so young that I'm guessing it came from me seeing a map and just not even believing that there were states that small,
I
right?
can
And
see that.
probably thinking like I want to go to the smallest
Smallest
state
state. Yeah.
ever or something like that. And so but yeah, and the funny thing is, I was just talking to a friend about this. It's like, we talk all the time about vacations and where do you want to go? Because you have to plan these
Oh
things.
yeah.
You can't,
Especially these days.
right? Exactly. And just saying how there's so many places domestically that I haven't been to Martha's Vineyard. I haven't been
You
to
have
Rhode
to go to Martha's
Island.
Vineyard. We
I need
should
to
go
go
to
with
Martha's
you.
Vineyard. That would be fun.
I want to go with you,
Yeah,
to be
we should
honest.
go. I've only been once and it was such a memorable trip, like honestly.
Was
Like
it?
one of the yeah, I went with a group of girls, one of whose like family like grew up on the island and she was a great hostess and took us all around and
Oh, fun.
got to go to like multiple different sides of the island. It's
Mm.
like the vibes are very cool.
I feel like it would be, as a Cancer, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like
Oh,
that
you would love it.
coastal town,
Yeah.
that's very me. I love a
Best lobster
caramel.
roll I've ever had in my life. But, so all that to say, I think like that's what makes it so interesting that we are getting a new franchise in Rhode Island. Like
I'm
it is a very
excited.
small state.
Yep.
So I think I had heard rumblings of this, but I was like pleasantly surprised when the trailer dropped. I had such a funny experience watching the trailer because I think there's one thing in particular a lot of people are talking about. So I'm watching this trailer and I'm watching these women and I literally had the thought, wow, like these women really look like Dolores
All of them.
from New Jersey. And I
Right.
kid you not, like I just had this thought and the next frame
Lord.
they show Dolores.
Yes.
It was such a mind fuck. I was like,
I
what's happening? What? I was so confused. I'm still confused. I still need someone to explain. But
don't understand.
the first thing I want to get into is I had no idea it was like this big Italian American community in Rhode Island.
That
And
missed
that
me.
to bring this full circle, listeners, that's what was so funny about like when I sent it to you of thinking like you were obsessed with this place growing up, but I don't did you know that? I didn't know that. It made me realize
No
I actually
idea.
have no idea all this time who has been living in Rhode Island.
Absolutely not. I have no idea. And I honestly don't know anything about it. Like, I was even thinking weather. Like, what is the weather in Rhode Island? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I never hear about hurricanes. I would assume that happens, right?
Well, yeah,
Like
I
different.
mean, yeah,
I
East
don't.
Coast. I think they probably have like similar,
Are we
like
hot in
heating.
Rhode Island a lot? I don't know. And that's why I'm so, it's things like that where it's almost like because we're getting a new city, we're getting a new set. And
Yes,
some of these shows is just turning your brain off and watching
totally.
incredible colors pass you by on the TV.
Well, and I mean, not to like, already start with the opinions about it, but I, again, like, and no offense to the people of Rhode Island, but I have to be honest, I did not realize your state was so beautiful. And I did
Same.
not expect it to, I guess I'm surprised
It
by
pops.
some of the wealth that seemed to be on display.
Right.
That
Right.
let's just say it straight.
Right.
Um, Not that, again, not to like stereotype or again to this conversation, we know so little about Rhode Island, but it looks pretty glamorous.
It does. And I sometimes forget that, like, in general, the East Coast and that particular region of the East Coast, so
New
Northeast,
England.
yeah, New England, right? You're talking colonial. You're talking first settlers. You're
Yeah.
talking, well, from the Mayflower. We know there were people here before
Yes. They're not actually the first
those
settlers.
motherfuckers. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But you know what I'm saying? Like that's so I do think old money
Yeah.
sometimes,
Well,
right?
and that's why I am intrigued because, and I'm sure this is probably, kind of to go back to like what's in Andy's head, why does he make these decisions?
Right.
From what we saw, I do think that, to go back to like early days of Jersey and, you know, sort of to a certain extent Orange County, but I think that these small communities obviously work very well for Bravo,
I
right?
think
Of
so.
course, there's New York and Miami and Atlanta; those are major cities, right? But I think when you look at Orange County, when you look at Salt Lake, when you look at Potomac, what is helpful in those types of environments is what we saw on display in the Rhode Island trailer, which is everyone knows everyone, right?
Yes.
Everyone
Yes.
has grown up with everyone. And I do think from like a production, a casting perspective, I think that probably makes things a lot easier for them. Um, Even when we start to think about, friends of, right?
Hmm.
Like looks like a show where they're gonna have no problem with friends of, right?
Yeah.
I got the feeling from that trailer, which is what excites me about it, that like yes, you're gonna have the main housewives, but almost that like there's gonna be the same types of people in the background at these parties because I mean clearly it's just a very small community from what we saw.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that I'm smiling and I'm laughing a bit because I think that this is why probably it's been so hard for anything in California to ever come together other than the Southern, right?
Yeah.
We've talked Silicon Valley housewives has always been whispered, and it's like, but in Silicon Valley, you can have a multimillionaire who's living in a hut in their backyard powering their car off of vegetable oil. You know what I mean?
Also
Like,
who maybe never goes out or does have a social life and then maybe some that
correct.
do or yeah, the
Right.
intermingling is not
It's
there in
not
the same
there.
way.
It's not there. And there's too much of a wealth disparity as well,
Yeah.
because you can have someone who might have a really great title and would be really interesting on camera, right? But they might be like a public servant or something
Yeah.
for San Francisco. And so though that storyline would be interesting, you don't have $1 million house that they're going home to, right? So it's very, I think I would love to see it, but maybe they're doing that. Maybe it's just taking like 10 years to cast. Maybe that is happening. God, I hope so. I would love to see a
I
Bravo
mean, probably.
one.
Well, so one funny thing I saw, I guess like one of the housewives' names is Joellen. I saw a tweet that some girl said her best friend grew up in Rhode Island and everyone calls her Hoellen. So,
Sorry, Joe.
sorry,
That's
Joe.
nice.
We don't even know you yet, and they're
And
already
that sucks.
clowning you. But I think again, it just sort of again shows like this is going to be an interesting one, I think.
Yeah.
I really am curious to see what the Dolores connection is going to be. But I think mostly I'm just curious to understand these women's lives and see what it is like to live in Rhode Island because from what I've seen so far, sign me up. It's a lot of boating, a lot of
Right.
on the water. I mean, it just looks stunning. Let's be real. So
It really
we'll
does.
definitely be talking about Real Housewives of Rhode Island on the pod when
For
it's
sure.
released. I know you want to dig in on Jeff Lewis. Before we get to that, I do want to highlight one other thing and
Tell
just
me.
see if you have any thoughts, which is the Valley, the one we
Oh
all
man.
are obsessed with. I'm so proud of myself that I was watching the Valley from the beginning. I feel like that was
Yeah. Finger on the
controversial.
pulse.
I feel like the first season, people were really like, what is this? I'm not going to watch this. This show is trash. It's never going to last. And boy, were you all wrong.
You really
Okay.
were.
But did you see that Lala and Tom Schwartz are now joining the cast? What do we think? I kind of don't want them on, I have to be honest. Like, that's
I
not why I like
think
the
that this,
show.
let me say this. This is how I feel about it. I don't think this cast needed saving. I think everyone was
Especially not
showing
from
up to
those
work.
two.
Yeah. Everyone was clocking in their timesheets, from Michelle to Lally to Kristen. I don't
I
think we
think they
needed,
had it covered.
I think we were fine.
It's
Um,
no, it's so it's tough, like of course I think both Lala and Tom Schwartz have made like numerous appearances on the Valley over the years,
friend
but
of,
I just find it interesting the thought process. And I think, like for me, I will say definitely while she was on Vanderpump, for the most part, I was always a fan of Lala.
Mhm.
Like when she first came on the show, I think like they were really lacking in just that personality
That
type,
vibe.
right? And she added like a spice level, badass bitch, not really sorry for anything she does. Great
Yeah,
television, right?
absolutely.
Give them Lala. But I think now she's giving like nothing. That is
Mhm,
how I feel about Lala
mhm,
lately. Like,
mhm.
give them nothing. Like, did you like it just and it's not just like in her appearances. It's just like I don't really understand what about her life like we're supposed to be interested in at this
Yeah,
point. And I know that's terrible to say, I'm not trying to imply that like, oh, okay, like because her abuser X is out of the picture, like now I don't care. But I do just think that like it was very clear towards the end of Vanderpump and also some of the appearances from the Valley that like she seems to be living a pretty low key life, which like
and that's
good for her.
okay.
She's taking care of
Right.
her daughters, she's taking care of herself, like we love to see it, but none of that like makes for interesting television. And then
Agreed.
Tom Schwartz, I love. He'll always have a soft I will have a soft spot for him. Okay? There's just something about him, the dopey kind of, demeanor and all of that. But like similarly, the only time Tom Schwartz was giving us anything on Vanderpump was when he was just fucking up his own life.
Right.
It's
And
not
ruining
like
Katie's.
he himself was great television. It was just
No.
the things that he would do and watching the rest of the cast have to react to it that made him interesting. So I
Yeah,
just am like, I just don't get it. I don't get
I
the
agree.
decision here.
I agree. And I think that there's a desire to keep them in the Bravo sphere universe, right? And I want to touch on Ariana for a second because that I think is a perfect example of like, what do you do with a reality TV star after they're done being a reality TV star?
Yeah.
Well, you use their notoriety for other things, right? So
Yeah.
she's the host of whatever that show is, right? Sex on an Island or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think same thing with Lala. Like I wish that there was something at Bravo where once your time was kind of done, they put you into another thing where it's like, okay, now you're hosting, now
Yeah.
you're like on you're being a brand ambassador and we're
You're
using
given a
Tom
vehicle.
Schwartz would be great at that, right?
Totally.
Like Bravo ambassador, but yeah, I don't need to see Tom date a 25-year-old. I don't.
I just
I
don't
don't
care
care.
anymore, And that's where like there's been a lot of hate being stirred up again about Katie, interestingly, because like I don't even know why, because she wasn't there.
Mm.
But that's where like I
Oh,
have to hand it to Katie. Katie's like, I think my time is done.
I'm done.
I'm out.
I'm
Like it's
okay with that.
over. There's nothing
Yeah.
else here.
And honestly, Katie got her sandwich shop. I mean, like, she's a great example of like,
She found her man.
she found her man, well, got herself out of a bad situation, found new love, got herself something that now she can have in a steady income stream. And
Yeah.
so now she gets to, for the rest of her 30s, figure out what she wants to do with her life, and it doesn't have to be exploiting yourself. So good for her.
Now, what I am excited for, real quick, because I forgot we almost weren't going to talk about this, is the new Valley that is
Oh,
coming, i.e., the return of our
Shaw's.
Shaws of
I
Sunset.
can't
Now
believe
that I
it.
was not expecting, I have to be honest. I think I had heard about that, but like brilliant, brilliant move, Andy.
I
Now
think
talk
so.
about finding exactly to the point you just made, Danae. Talk about finding a clever new vehicle for people of Bravo past that we are still interested in seeing. That
Absolutely.
repackaging or that new show, chef's kiss.
And also, I really miss Family. Was it Family Karma? Hold on.
What was Family Karma?
Hold on. Pause. Family. Family Karma. Bravo. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. It had 3 seasons. It was on
Why am I not
Bravo.
remembering this?
Yes. So it followed American reality that premiered on Bravo, chronicles the lives of several Indian American families over 3 generations who relocated to Miami, Florida around the same time. And it's so good
Oh,
because
I
it's
do
like,
kind of remember that.
yeah, it's not, it was great because it was like there was all of the moms and dads are like deeply involved in these people's lives, much like in Shaw's.
Yeah, totally.
And I just think that there's something about that that's really interesting when you have to kind of live your adult life, but still appease your parents because that's part of your culture.
Yeah.
I just think it adds something really interesting on screen. So
I
I'll
also
love
do
more
just
of
think
what
it's
we see.
fascinating that like Bravo, again, had developed so much programming in LA that they are able to even do this, to
Yeah.
have the Vanderpump crew go through that experience of growing up and having kids and actually physically moving to the valley, and then the Shaw stars have done the same exact thing. Like you just can't ask for, I think, a better setup. So
You really
it's
can.
pretty clever. Okay, I know you're dying to get into the Jeff Lewis of it all. So let's go.
Tiny little, just I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. And for our listeners, I'll give you a 30-second drill down. So basically, Jeff Lewis was moderating a panel with just Andy, where it was an opportunity to just for him and the audience to ask Andy whatever. And before he started to ask Andy a question, he started to just kind of go off on a monologue, which
Yeah.
Andy interrupted and was like, "Hey, dude, are you asking me questions or are you talking?" But basically, what he was saying was, you cast someone on one of these shows. So let's say Housewives, right? And they get into it. And now you're season 3, right? And maybe you don't have a storyline, but you're still on that show, right? So maybe now you're in the position by season 4 that you're creating some sort of storyline, as
Yeah.
we've seen happen a lot on OC. And that's what I think people are reacting to, that the whole thing with Gretchen feels very manufactured,
Yeah.
right? Like Gretchen and Tamara don't hang out. They don't still have this beef. Why are we even talking about it? So then you're getting into a place where you're creating beef to be on television.
Yeah.
And the question that he posed to Andy was like, one, like, is this good? But also, is this a career? Because
Yeah.
his opinion was what makes reality television really interesting, and this actually goes to everything that we've been talking about, is when you get to see the career, is when you get to see the family, is when by season 4 all of that is faded away and you're just recycling the same stuff. Basically
Totally.
what you've done is create a job out of being a housewife, out of being on Southern Charm. And so what he was kind of posing to Andy was like, is that good? Is that right? What do you think about that? Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to discuss with you, is like, yeah, like, what do you think that there should be a limit on how many seasons these women get? Do you think that there should be the moment your thing becomes inauthentic? Like, do you think being a Bravo celebrity is a lifestyle, right? Like, I don't know. What do you think of these people in
Oh,
general?
well,
What
I
do
mean,
you
yeah,
think?
I think a lot of them have made it a lifestyle at this point, right? I mean, let's be
Yeah.
real. Like, example after example, we don't even need to name names, right? Like so many of them have been able to build businesses and brands, off of the back of being on Bravo, right? I think to the point of what you're getting at, that I think is sort of the crux of what keeps it all going to an extent, because I think Andy knows that. And
Mhm.
and that is what's fun for it about people, right? Like as much as he acts irritated when fans are calling out, this person's done, we don't need them on the show
Right.
anymore, or, as much as like he's feeding into that. Like that's all part of the game, right?
Mhm.
Is people
Mhm.
being able to express their opinions or say that was like a terrible season for that housewife. What is she still doing here, right? Like I think without that, it's not to say they wouldn't still be successful, but I do think like it is part of the machine, and I think it's very intentional, right?
I agree. I agree. And I think for me too, this going back to the Kyle and Amanda of it all, right? It does, in my opinion, take seasons to care. Like the
Yeah.
first season of Summer House, I don't care that Kyle is mean to Amanda. Season
Yeah,
two, I'm like, okay, wait, but Amanda's cool. Why are we being mean to Amanda? Season three, I'm
totally.
like, don't mess with my Amanda. Like
It's
that's
the
my girl.
investment in these people and their relationships, and like that compounds over time, obviously, and that
Yeah,
makes you more interested as a fan. I agree. I think it's
I
really
agree.
hard. I mean, look, we've all watched brand new reality TV shows, right? Like it's, I think the last one for me is probably the Nader Girls, right? And that's a hard thing too, to just be like introduced, to an audience, you're brand new, and then have people,
Yeah.
latch on. So it's not to say that that can't happen, but I do think a lot of the joy in reality TV comes from feeling like you know these people. And I
Hmm.
mean, let's be real, that is what BravoCon is, right? You're just selling to an audience that feels like they know these people, and you're creating an environment in which you can reinforce that feeling.
Yeah.
Because surely, if I can go stand in a booth and talk to all of them, or even better, to preview what we'll talk about here in a little bit, if you can be at BravoCon and see them just in the wild because you're all staying at the same
Right.
hotel,
Right.
right? Like, you made the point on our last podcast about like parasocial relationships and things like that, right? Like everything about BravoCon, I think, is set up to just further stoke that reality for people, right?
100%. Yes.
So, without that, I don't think it would be what it is. And I think to your point, that takes time to build.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, let's be real, like, no offense to any of them, but that's like the only reason why Next Gen NYC is even working a little bit, right? Like,
100%.
it's because like we grew up watching these
Hmm.
kids as kids and now they're adults. I mean, no offense to Riley and I'm always forgetting the
The
big
other one, I know
girl's
what you're talking
name.
about.
But like that's the only reason we care, honey. Like we like
Yeah.
because we know you
Right.
already. Otherwise
Exactly.
I wouldn't care.
Yeah. And I think
You
that
guys
this
aren't
is,
interesting enough. Like that cast, no offense, could never just start
oh,
as a brand new group of faces and we would be entertained by that.
I
It
agree.
is because of who they are.
I agree. And I think that this goes back to sometimes, all the time, people really bag on the Kardashians because it's like, oh my God, well, why would I buy Skims? Right.
Yeah,
And it's like, but that's the social contract that we have with the Kardashians. We buy their crap and they expose every part of their lives to us. That's the
totally.
that's the whole give and take. You
That's
know
the
what I mean?
exchange.
That's what we're in it for. And like that's why we're on season 20 of Keeping Up the Kardashians and we're still watching because yeah, I disagree with Jeff. I think it's a narrow view. I also think it's like there's just so many examples of people too who say what you will about Bethany, right? But there we do want to just shut and I know that there's others and I know I can't think of them off the top of my head, so I'm gonna have to use Bethany. But perfect example of someone who went on Bravo, exposed everything, made her dime, and then actually created something that is like helping people every single day in her B cause, right?
Yeah,
Charity. So, it whatever. It's just another grind as far as I'm
100%.
concerned.
And it's I think it's also just in general like outside of the Bravo universe, it's where things are heading too.
100, it's
Content
TikTok.
creators. I mean, it's
Right.
just, we're seeing all that evolve. Now,
Right.
I will say I am confused as to why Andy keeps Jeff in the mix. I know I don't even want to get into their whole beef and the weird back and forth, but like it is strange to me because it's so
Hmm.
obvious that Andy does not like him.
Hmm.
I feel like they're like frenemies at this point.
Do you think Jeff has something on Andy?
I think it's possible. I think that it's interesting just what he gets away with. But I also do feel for Jeff sometimes too, which is weird. So like one of his gripes I saw coming out of his panel was that, he was interviewing Andy, asking him kind of direct questions. He had asked Andy, I think about like a shakeup on the OC, didn't say anything, then later
Hmm.
announced Vicky. Similarly, he was asking him about New York, what are your plans there? And then like 2 days later, they were like, the cast is locked. So I saw this morning like Jeff's pissed at Andy because he feels like, why not just play into it? Like
Right.
if you and I are being set up to have this panel and have this direct conversation, why not tease the thing that you're literally about to announce, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I just think that like whatever the reason, there is one, and that's interesting, right?
I
Like
think it's interesting
there's
too.
definitely something strategic on Andy's side where he's like not going to give that to Jeff, you know? And I
Yeah.
think like whatever is behind that makes me really confused then, like why Jeff is around, you know? Because like what's the point? And again, this is where like, you know, people talk about Andy being so diabolical. Like you say that and then I'm like, well, maybe that's the whole game. You know, like
Okay.
maybe it is just because he knows that like Jeff is going to bring eyeballs or whatever, so he lets him go and mouth off or, you know, but like even this morning like it does make you wonder while I think there's a lot of truth to that, like is I would love to know, is Andy annoyed that he's out there saying that today?
I
You
don't
know?
know, but I was kind of thinking the same thing when it comes to Danny Pellegrino. Not that I think Danny Pellegrino is on Andy's radar in the same way, but you have to understand, like, he's a major figure in Bravo as far as like covering Bravo shows, right? Like
Yeah.
he is one of the top podcasters that are in the game. I think like Bitch Sesh might be like number one. I don't know, but
Yeah.
there's five who are the most popular. And he was given two panels, but everyone was saying like his panel sucked because one of his panels was the Valley, for example. And it was obvious that everyone who went on that panel was coached to not say anything because their premiere date is coming up like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was obvious that they were all said, don't give any spoilers. So Danny is just on stage looking left to right, like, what am I doing here? Like, no
Trying
one's
to
talking to me. So I wonder too, it's like, is that yeah, like, but then if you're going to ask me, do I think that Andy is so diabolical that he would give someone an opportunity to come and do something at Bravo
yeah.
and then humble them while they're there? Yeah, I think that
Of
that's
course.
definitely possible.
Of course. And that's why, you know, I don't know.
Like
Well,
100%.
it's just it's fascinating. I think like I won't be surprised if him and Jeff Lewis are in another feud again at some point. It's just
I also think that there is, and this is something I'm not even going to like speak about because I don't know anything about this, but you have to understand as well. They are both gay men of a certain age, and there just might be some unspoken code between these two that we could just never understand, you
oh
know, like
yeah. Well, I think
that.
I mean, look, there's history there for sure.
Right. Like 20 years ago, they went hands in that, like, even though we hate each other, we are just going to ride for each other
Yeah.
because life is hard enough for us. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are the, going back to like the Kanye of it all last week, right? Like, these are the things that unfortunately we'll just never know. And I'm going to make a list of them. When I get to the pearly gates, I'm going to ask God.
Yeah. Top of the list. Bravo
Number one, what was going
universe.
on with Andy and Jeff?
Have to know. Get to the bottom of it. Well, so we've talked about a lot of like dare we say positive things coming
Yeah.
out, right? Some of the returns, very exciting. Some of the new content that we'll be
Mm.
getting. But
Mm.
it is BravoCon after all. These people are messy on camera. That's, you know, obviously why we watch. But so there's a certain level of messiness coming off camera. So let's get into some of that because I think so first of all, for me, one of the more interesting ones, did you hear about the Madison and Cy
I
DeSilva?
did.
The reason I want to talk about this one is I feel like this just comes out of like left field to me. Like
Uh-huh.
not out of left field, but it's just not the beef that you think is gonna start. And not
Right.
those two individuals. But to catch our listeners up if you haven't seen. So I believe it started on a panel where I think Madison was asked about like who is like you know the meanest or you know kind of
Yeah. It was
not
just
nice
really quickly.
person.
They were doing that game where you put someone's face on the other person's
Yeah.
face and then you give them descriptors in
Yes.
order for. So Austin, I think it was Austin who was holding a photo of Cy, and Madison was saying descriptors to him. Go ahead. Of
Yeah.
Cy.
So her answer was Psy. And I think she followed it up and said, Psy is the meanest girl that I
Yep.
have ever met.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, okay, so that was like the first thing. And I like my initial reaction was like, sounds kind of believable,
For
right?
sure. For sure.
I think then Psy responds to that. Obviously, Madison's comment happened on a panel. Psy goes on
On
social
stage.
media, basically to sum it up, she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. We've never met. And then she kind of has a dig at Madison. Not all brown people are the same, or, something like that. So Cy
Yeah.
brings race into it.
Yeah.
Not long after this, I think Madison leaks some of their DMs. So basically, it turns out not only have Madison and Cy met
Yeah.
before, but I think it was at another BravoCon, or it
They
was
were sitting right next to each other at another panel.
so they've definitely met, and
Right.
I think Madison alerts Sai to this and sends a picture and says, like,
Mhm.
point proven. Sai writes back, listen, girl, leave me alone. I don't know you, and I don't remember sitting next to you 2 years ago. And Madison says, well, you remember now, bitch. And Sai then responds, I still couldn't pick you out of a lineup. You're extremely unmemorable. So, I mean, I think most of the Bravo universe seems to be coming to Madison's defense on this. I think
I
there's
think
a lot of
so.
rumors. Here's what I will say. I do think Sai is a very misunderstood housewife.
Uh-huh.
And I do have to stand up for my fellow Sagittarius sister
Uh-huh.
here in saying she is very direct.
Hmm.
She is very direct. You see that on New York City. She's not going to beat around the bush. She's not going to, sugarcoat what she's saying to you. Interestingly, I saw a few tweets. Yes, I'm on Twitter, listeners. That
She's on X, by the way.
I
But
call it,
anyway,
I still call it Twitter. I don't care. I refuse to call it X. Okay, it's
I don't
Twitter.
call it X.
Basically people just vouching for Sai, saying that this is not true, that she's very nice, and that the one tweet in particular I saw said, the influencer community in New York is still small, and so a lot of people know
Okay.
her, and this is not true.
Okay.
A lot of people would disagree that she's,
Yeah.
that's fair, right? And I think that if people want to come and defend her, that's fine. But I think if you just have to like look at this specific situation, Sai's being a bitch. Like she's
100%.
sort of proving Madison right with the whole
Right.
mean girl behavior, like how she's navigating through this whole thing.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that no one asked her to respond. I look, to be fair, Madison fired the shots first, right?
Mhm.
Like everyone is, I'm sure, consuming all the same content at BravoCon. Of course, Sai was going to see that. Madison knew that in the moment. It's all part of the game, right? They have to
Mhm.
give an answer. Um, I do think Sai sort of stepped in it though by going toe to toe with Madison because in the end, I think she's just kind of she looks a little silly now, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, and
Yeah.
the one thing I'll just take issue with is like I do find it strange when people think it's like a flex to brag about that they don't remember meeting you. Like I just don't understand. Like that is where I just have to like call her out. Like that's never a flex. It's just mean. Like the polite thing to do is always to like either pretend that you met that person or just keep it moving, right? I
I
think
agree.
sort of like call it out, like that's mean girl behavior. Like
It
that's
is.
mean girl
And
behavior, like 101. It's one of like the top tactics. Like I think all women, whether you've done that or been on the receiving end of it, pretending not to have met someone,
yes.
mean girl behavior.
And two things about that too. There's a way to do that in a way where it's like, oh my God, I know I met you, but I do not remember your name. I am so
Exactly.
hello. So easy to do. You know what I mean? And the second thing that I want to say about that I heard this quote the other day and I was like, that right there. Do not confuse being busy with being important.
Yeah,
And I think that we all do that way too much, especially
totally.
like you get into this mom mode too, where it's like, I'm running around, I'm doing everything. And it's like, well, if you have mom friends, they're all doing that too. So, like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you're not the
totally.
only mom running around. I say this as a mom. Sometimes I think to myself, like, my life is so hard. My best friend over here has 4 children to my 2. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, it's hard. We're all doing that. And you're not any more important. And that doesn't give you the right to just think that you don't have to remember people's names. And I do think that this is all part of the Bravo game too. Unfortunately, I think you live
Yeah.
and die by your reputation. And to quote Cardi B, or maybe I can't quote her directly, but you gotta know who you're going toe to toe with. you gotta take stock of that in your own life and think, is it worth it? Because I'm not going toe to toe with Madison. You take it to the sand, she's gonna take it to hell. And that's where she took it. So,
I I could not agree more. I think you have to be realistic about who you're going up against, but I also think it is a little bit of like you have to take stock of like where you sit in the Bravo
what
universe
type of power
too.
you wield?
And like to your point, it is a game. I think we saw, outside of this Madison and Saya interaction, I saw plenty of other interactions where housewives were clearly saying like, who, or I don't
Uh-huh.
remember that person. But again, like, I saw Kyle Richards do it. Kyle Richards can get away with that.
It's Kyle Richards.
It's Kyle Richards. She's been on forever, okay? No one is ever going to come at Kyle Richards for standing up on that stage and not knowing a newer housewife. No one cares,
Yep.
okay? But
Yep.
Sai is like, we don't even know yet if she's on the show again. She probably is. The show that she is on is like the least liked of all of the Housewife franchises.
Right.
It's just like maybe just take a beat and think about, and again, like there's always multiple ways to handle things. There are other housewives that I think would have maybe just apologized, or you still could have maybe, maybe she didn't want to apologize because she didn't feel like she actually was mean. But she could have just said like, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like there's so many other
Absolutely.
things that she could have said. I think that she really showed her ass making it about race only for it's actually like I think I saw someone that said, "Oh, so it's actually the brown person that doesn't remember that they met this white person."
Right. Right. And I do
She like
think too,
walked into that
and
like
and also though in this situation, I just knocked my microphone, so sorry listeners if I popped your ear there, but in this situation too, I get what Sai is saying a little bit because probably, well, I don't know,
well,
but
I'm
I'm
sure
gonna,
that that has happened.
there's
That's where
so many blonde, right?
it
Like,
happened
come on,
on both sides. On both sides,
come on.
okay?
I get it. I will give her that in some regard. Yeah, maybe she just thought she was someone off of Southern Hospitality, right? Like, had no idea, and then was like, "Oh, that's Madison LaCroix. Oh, okay." So, but I just don't think we need to take it to that place so quickly. And I think that that's probably what put Madison in the place where she was like, no, I'm really going to fight this when the race comment came into it. Because I think for her, she was probably thinking like, oh no, I'm not going to let it devolve to
You're
that.
not gonna do that.
You're
Yeah.
not going to put my name with something that this is absolute me. And you know what? And in our like political climate, not to talk about that at all. I think we're running into this a lot too, where it's like, people having a commentary on you or the way that you are doesn't mean that they hate you or they hate your race or they hate your religion or they hate anything about you. It's just like people, not everyone is going to like each other,
Yeah.
unfortunately. That's life.
100%. And to be honest, like who was actually surprised anyways to find out that these two interacted and it didn't go well? Like I'm not. We're talking
Two
about
absolute type A's. Like,
opposite,
yeah,
it's just, very different women. Well,
absolutely.
so there were some other things that were interesting, like in terms of maybe potential bad
Oh,
behavior or weird behavior. I think we saw that Sheena Shea apparently got into a fight, but that got dispelled. So I
right.
would still love to know
How did that even come up?
how did that come up? I mean, I think again when that popped up, it was everyone was like, sounds right. Like that felt like that was the general reaction, but
We all believed
clearly
it.
not true. But then the thing I really want to like maybe I think this is a good like note for us to sort of end on because this is the thing I've been thinking about the most with BravoCon. What is fascinating is that access, right? It's not just through the panels, as we were talking about earlier, or the booths. Everyone is sort of like in Vegas at the same time. And
Mhm.
so, one of the things I was actually most intrigued by, and I'm sure you saw some of these, is how many like leaked videos that we've been getting kind of coming
Oh,
out from fans who are taking, obviously secret shots, secret moments, and sort of displaying them for everyone to see. And so what's crazy is there was actually like a couple of them.
mhm.
I think at least the couple I saw. So the first, we got a very strange clip of Lindsay Hubbard in a corner with Tom Sandoval and his girlfriend. I mean, I watched it a couple of times. Were you able to make out what they were saying? It seemed very unclear. It seemed like she was maybe upset with him and lecturing
Yeah,
him, but I just what a weird clip.
what a weird clip. The chef clip, which I know we're going to talk about next, listen, and this is all alleged. Nicole and I know nothing, and everything we say on this podcast is alleged. Um, it's snowing in Nevada, and it was snowing hard the last 3 days. And I think that from what I saw from Lindsay, Tom,
Yeah.
I can't talk about the girlfriend, don't know her. Her back was to the camera.
Yeah.
And of course, Shep. I think we were.
Yeah.
I think people just get on a different dimension, you know,
Well,
and
and to go back to our conversation about criminality, not to, I'm not trying to draw a line here between drugs, and I'm fine with people and whatever things
yeah,
they
do
do
whatever you want to do.
recreationally, don't care.
Have fun.
But I do think it is another type of person that Bravo tends to draw in, right? Like, I think substance abuse issues are sort of a thorough line, unfortunately,
Yes.
across all of these franchises, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so I agree with you. I think that was fueling a lot of what we were seeing. Some of it, yeah, because some of them were like incoherent, you
Yeah.
know? Um, I just, you know, my take on the Lindsay Tom Sandoval thing is like she strikes me as someone who is like up in people's business when they're not asking for it. Like, and I'm not
I
trying to
agree.
excuse Tom Sandoval. He is not worthy of any excuses. He's always in the wrong, let's be real. But it just felt so odd that like his girlfriend was there. To me, it just struck
Uh-huh.
me as like she's up in their business and maybe doesn't need to be. I don't know. I'm always on the fence about Lindsay. Like, I
I
like
know.
her, but I also think she's a pot stirrer too.
Yeah. So both, okay. So just really quickly, listeners, this is, please go listen, of course, to Everything Iconic and Turtle Time because they also went to BravoCon and they moderated some panels. Watch What Crappens as well. But this is all to say they already have posted their Bravo recaps from actually being on the ground. And I've learned so much stuff that goes into all of this
It's
because one of my big
fascinating.
questions was like, why are they all over the place? So for 2027, the reason being is because you have BravoCon at the event center, right? But then there are all of these different activations all over the strip. So Kyle Cook will be doing a DJ set at Hakkasan.
Yeah,
You'll have Meredith Marks doing a DJ set. And so it naturally makes it so that they're just crawling the strip all the time, right? Because they
totally.
have to go, or, Amanda wants to go to Kyle's thing. So now Ciara and Amanda are going to be at this thing. So that was fascinating because I didn't understand exactly why we were getting so much
Like the
like boots on the
mechanics of
ground.
it.
Right. Like, where are they? So they're at different hotels doing different things all of the time, which is
Makes
really
sense.
exciting
Yeah.
to see and exciting to think about. And then what they were saying as well, Danny was just talking about, and this is the part that I wanted because of Lindsay, that he goes as a podcaster and all these people are in his DMs and he realizes like, oh no, they're not. It's their like gay social media assistant that are in their DMs. Like they don't know me at all. That's fine. Humbling experience, but how also just how some of these people are just absolutely mean. And Lindsay
Yeah.
is one that continues year after year. She is an evil. And I believe that. Just because of what I, as a Summer House fan of what
Yeah,
I
we've
see,
seen we've seen that behavior on the show. It can
I
be a
think she's a
little.
tough, tough cookie. And then yeah, I think you put a little bit of liquid courage on top of that, and you get some fun things popping off and happening. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting. Like, man, just the fact that they know that there's such a high probability of someone trying to sleuth and get them on camera, and yet they all are just like, let's have 10 shots and let this rip.
That's what's crazy. I mean, and again, that's
So
what we love
weird.
about it, that they're messy, but it is what makes it so unique, right? Like you would
It
never
is.
see this sort of environment or access with Hollywood stars, right? And
No.
so for reality TV stars to be there and interacting with fans in formal ways and informal is like it's fascinating.
It
I
is.
think we should end with, and it's actually really appropriate to talk about Shep's moment because I had no idea that Southern Charm was premiering tonight. I am so
It
excited.
is?
Listeners, you
What?
know what I'll be doing this evening. Shout out to my boyfriend who was the one that told me. I love that he's more plugged in than I am. So I'm so excited. We get new Southern Charm tonight, finally.
I'm excited.
But I think one of the ones that definitely is making the rounds is Shep's little moment, which definitely seemed like it was happening with some potential normies, fans who somehow got sucked up into having to listen to his tirade. But Shep was caught like in some sort of bar in a hotel or something like that, just going on a full-on rant about Paige. If you want to talk about someone living rent-free in someone's mind, Shep's obsession with Paige, it's starting to get a little scary. I think if I
Yeah.
were her, I would be a little bit concerned because
Yeah.
I think it's one thing for him to come after her as he has on the show, on the reunions. We are a full like year, maybe more past their breakup, past that being like on the show. This is the new
Hmm.
season starting today. And
Hmm.
he is still talking about her
He
when he's
can't believe it.
drunk. Like
He
it's
can't
it's a little bit
believe it.
psychotic.
It's crazy. And I think it's the same reason why a couple of seasons ago he was obsessed with Madison too, because
Yes.
he just could not believe that there was a woman that wasn't charmed by him.
I think so. And I will say, like, in that context, actually, it is so interesting that these, like, guys around him do manage to pick these girls that, like, won't take Shep's shit, you know?
I
Because I
love
think,
it.
like, that did probably like, it wasn't obviously the main reason. Austin was the main reason. But for sure, some of the issues that Shep and Madison had contributed to challenges that Shep was having with Austin. And in the same exact way with Craig, like, Paige and Shep had issues and things like that. So it is sort of fascinating that like both of his really good friends pick these women that like it's almost like are they picking them to a certain extent because they can't stand up to Shep?
Oh my God,
So
right?
they pick partners that can, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think in both cases, too, what's been really like uncomfy to watch is I also think it's jealousy, and that's something I never understood about Shep. Like, Shep could have a Madison, he could have a Paige.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he has some work to do spiritually and mentally and emotionally,
Oh,
but
sure.
no, but I mean, it's just to say he has the exact same status and access as Austin and Craig has had,
Totally.
yet it's him who chooses not to settle down. So I do find that behavior so weird because to me, it does come off as jealousy. And
Yeah.
that's where I start to think like maybe it's not jealousy for Craig and Austin like dating these women. It's jealousy specifically of these women. And
Yeah.
that's what's really creepy because listeners, for me, there is nothing more cringeworthy than men that are jealous of women.
Oh,
Bizarre. Like, very weird behavior.
and it brings me back too, because of course she's a crazy person, but even Bethany Frankel, right? It's like she'll talk about that all the time, that it's like she'll go on dates with these men and get halfway through and realize they're looking for a business partner or a mentor.
Yeah,
And she's like, "Oh, I thought we were gonna have a romantic connection, right?" It's like
I
you want
thought
to
we
be
were like going to be like equals.
right. Like they're coming for tips on how to be Bethany Frankel from Bethany Frankel, right? And so yeah, I completely agree with you. I also think with Shep, I think Shep has a really hard time contending with the idea that Craig and Austin do drink. They do own
Yeah,
a restaurant in Charleston, just like
yeah,
he does. I think he owns two.
yeah,
Um, uh they are out in the public eye, they are out on the show, and yet even though they have both, maybe not Austin, I don't want to speak for Austin, but I know Craig has come out and said that he's dealt with some Adderall addiction and
yeah,
issues with alcohol, right? I think he has a hard time contending with the idea that these two are able to have successful relationships and have demons. I think he finds himself in a situation where it's like he has these demons in the form of like addiction, like
yeah,
coke,
yeah.
alcohol. And I don't think he can get up from underneath them. And I think he
Well,
finds it really hard to do both. And he looks at them and he's mad that they're doing both somehow, And it's like, well,
case
probably
in
because they drink
point,
less.
we have spent the last two reunions talking about Shep's behavior at BravoCon.
Right.
And now here we are with the new season about to premiere, and he's displaying the exact same behavior at BravoCon. That's the part that I find really crazy, right?
I
Like,
agree.
specifically, it has been a topic of the show that he wiles out at BravoCon. And it's
Yeah.
like, here we are again. Nothing has changed. And so,
Yeah.
to your point, I agree. I don't think he's winning that battle with his demons. I think, you know, outside of it being sort of disgusting, some of the things he was saying, like watching the clip did also make me sad. Like there's nothing sadder than watching someone who's like still talking and obsessed about
Mhm.
something that is so far outside of like your personal universe because one, you weren't the one that was dating Paige, it was Craig, and two, they have not been together now for a while. So
Yeah,
the fact that like when he is letting loose, that's what he wants to spend time on, like
yeah.
it just reads so pathetic for him.
I know, and there was a video, two things. There was a video of Whitney downtown at some Charleston bar. This was maybe 5 months ago that this video came out, right? And he's just obliterated, talking to some 21-year-old girl, telling her, "You want to come back to the biggest house in Charleston?" Just like, and people and the women are laughing at him. And and
Yeah.
and that's the thing where it's like, I could only imagine what that's like when for 30 years of your life, 20 years of your life, you've been the big man on campus. Every woman is charmed by you. You can
Yeah.
roll up to any bar, get any girl, and then you get a paunch on you. You hit 45, and suddenly these girls are looking at you because this is what men think. They see
Yeah.
on television that these 50-year-old men are with these 20-year-old women, and they think that that's real life. It's not. These women are laughing at you. They
Totally.
they are literally like, no, I'm 21. I could get a hot 30-year-old. I don't need to date a 50-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Totally.
and they think that it's going to work, that they have some coin in their pocket and all of these women will fall at their feet. And it's like, no. And these men are on television,
Well, and
and
also not to be mean, but like he's not Craig. Like I think we all
you're
saw Craig has
not.
reinvented himself yet again. He's looking amazing. Let's be real.
Looking
He always
great.
does. Um, Shep just doesn't have that luxury. Like it's just
He's a bit
not.
messy,
Yeah.
he's a bit unkempt in his,
Yes, and I think women can like sense that about
yeah, like
him.
I'm going to have to take care of you. And I don't want to take care of a almost 50-year-old boy man.
Well, especially not when you are acting a fool at BravoCon and have people filming you secretly, and now that's all over the internet. So,
Also, the one thing I will say about the Shep, and it's like the shark necklace of it all. And don't get me wrong, was the shark necklace like I think $700 or something like that? I guess, but like that is exactly the type of thing that I would expect from Shep. That someone that would have like multiple, like what we're supposed to believe is that he's a multimillionaire, right? Old money. Okay, he's about to inherit everything, whatever. And you're gonna buy me like a shark tooth necklace, right?
yeah.
It's like that he does, in my opinion, seem incredibly like he's not generous with what he has either. And
No,
so I think
totally.
if I'm seeing that as a young woman, because I say young woman because that's what he wants as a young woman, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not even gonna get a bag out of this situation. Like, I'm good. Nope.
Oh, Shep. Well, I guess we'll see. We will see tonight what shenanigans he's gonna get into.
Yeah.
This was so much fun. We definitely have to do 2027 BravoCon, and I feel
Oh,
like we could
girl.
like talk about this probably for another few hours, but 2027, it's on. We're going.
This is the
And then
road to
and then we'll
BravoCon. It starts
record this
today.
like live together.
That's, oh my God. Listeners, it's our dream and we have a year to work on it together. Okay. So
Yay.
let's start getting
Goals. I
these
know
views
something to
up.
work towards.
Yes, we need our comments, we need more engagement. And we're gonna be working on that too, just trying to post a little bit more to TikTok. So Rhinestoned TikTok is now up. Rhinestoned Instagram is up. We have one reel already live on our TikTok. We'll do a couple of reels tomorrow morning after we get this posted on YouTube. So please engage with us where you see us. We're starting
Yes.
to be everywhere.
Yes. And we will see you all next week. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
listeners. Bye, sis. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.